everyone, and welcome back to Silicon Sounds, music for the rest of us. Today I'm going to have a really quick review of a recent release from Kbear. This is the Kbear Little Q. Kbear Little Q is an unassuming little earphone, very reminiscent actually of the Tanchjim Tanya, due to its form factor and surprisingly, or I should just say surprising sound, though they are definitely not tuned the same. Sporting a single 6mm composite diaphragm, very tiny 6mm composite diaphragm housed in an aluminum shell. It's a simple yet attractive little thing. For better or for worse, the cable is captive, so no cable rolling here. Although I did get good results using these fantastic tips from Tanchjim. Maybe that's for another review. Fantastic tips, work excellent by the way with the Tin Hi-Fi Audio T3 Plus. We'll get that out of the way. Let's continue with this. The cable resists tangling very well and basically stays out of the way. So cable rolling is definitely not something you're going to do with these. Tip rolling, though, is definitely something you want to do. And the correct tips can lead to some sonic gains. With respect to a source, the Little Q does sound best with a more capable source that is neutral and clean as opposed to warmer, and we'll get into why later. Really not much hype around this IEM. That's probably due to the fact that other IEMs were introduced at the same time, including, for example, the Moondrop Chew, and of course, the Sound Notes Zero. But we'll get to that as comparisons later. But it does deserve mention. The Little Q definitely does deserve a mention and a closer look, as it sounds larger than its name would have you believe. So at the asking price of just around $15 US, Little Q will not make a big dent in your wallet, but let's take a deeper dive and see how much of a dent it can make to your ears sonically. Specs, once again, about 32 ohm impedance, frequency range 20 to 20 kilohertz, yeah, whatever that means. Sensitivity 118 dB, 6mm composite diaphragm. The plug termination is 3.5mm single-ended. So as we move on, equipment used includes a Tempotec Sonata E44 dongle, Apogee Groove, and the Shanling UA2 dongle. Air tips, Final Audio E Clear, and I ended again. What I used was the Tanchjim tips, as I had shown you from before. Source includes FLAC files from my personal collection, which I converted myself, CD collection over 1,000 CDs, and my Apple Music subscription. Build, quality, and fit, small, light, but feels very well built. And it is very nicely built. There really is not that much to say with respect to the form and function. It's good. It's comfortable, fits in your ear well. Very tip dependent for the fit, and a good seal with these, of course, being that there's no support with the other over-ear, I should say around the ear type of cable arrangement that a lot of other earphones have. These are straight down, so a good tip will be required to get a seal and to get these to fit without moving. The included accessories are scant. Please look below for a link to the in the description of the video for a link to the blog, which gives you pictures and a lot more detailed review. Sound, bass. The Little Q has a definite bass emphasis, more so in the mid bass than in the deep sub bass. Bass is reasonably extended, with an overall thick and thumpy character to it that is more fun than hi-fi. Again, more fun than hi-fi. Depending on the track, it can be distracting at times. I found this when listening to some mellow jazz, smooth jazz. At times, depending, the bass can become a little bit of a distraction, overshadowing to some portion the other areas of the frequency range. Detail, texture, and speed are average, not in the same league as the $5 more expensive Sound Note Zero, for example, or even the Moondrop Chew if looking squarely at the metric of quality. Still, the Little Q can be a fun listen. It can be really fun to listen to and has more bass output than either of the previously mentioned earphones. There is some mid-bass bleed, which tends to warm up the mids a bit, and it did tend to also thicken the mids to some extent. Mid-range. The Kbear Little Q's mid-range serves up smooth playback with some macro details, but falls short with respect to micro details. Not the most detailed earphone out there. You will hear some macro details. Micro details, for the most part, are not really there, or there in very small quantities. Vocals sound full with either male or female voices being more immediate than recessed with pretty good clarity. There is some mid-bass bleed which enhances the warmth factor, but not to the point of clouding the mids where it becomes, again, a distraction. Detail and separation are good, particularly considering the price, but complex tracks can sound congested, in particular at moderately high to high volumes. So it's a good earphone if you want to be more technical about the listening experience. Keep the volume level moderate. Note weight is commendable, and the Little Q can never be called thin. Transients have some softness though in the leading and trailing edges, but still serves a pleasant listening experience when the user is not being so critical. Upper mid-range is free of harshness and very easy to listen to. What we have here is a mid-range presentation that will not offend most listeners, while more demanding listeners will probably move up for a few dollars more to the Sound Notes or the Chew. Timbre is okay, but much better than some other super budget offerings in that regard, for sure, that I've had the displeasure of listening to. So in their price range, they're definitely exceptional. Treble. Treble is safe and does not fatigue. The operative word here is safe. Not as extended as some of the moderately more expensive items or IEMs mentioned above. Again, we're talking about a difference of $5, but that's 25% more expensive at this price range. But well controlled and not offensive at all. Air and sparkle is really track dependent. This is what the interesting thing is. It's not apparent all the time, but depending on the track, sometimes you have a wow moment. There's been some occasions where the Little Q really surprised me. For the most part, though, this is treble that's meant not to offend and spoil the rest of the presentation. Imaging and soundstage. The Kbear Little Q, when looking at its price range, definitely has above average imaging, throwing up a decent image with slightly more intimate sounding soundstage. Still, hard to compete against those for just a few dollars more. It is a very stable soundstage. A little bit more closed in. Let's say that definitely the Chew has a much more expansive soundstage, and the Sound Notes as well falls in between the two of those. So let's talk about verses. This little darling, which is well deserved so, the Sound Note Zero. How does this compare to the $5 less expensive Kbear Little Q? It's not even a contest. In every metric except for bass output, the Zero bests the Little Q. Bass quality is clearer on the Zero, which also sounds more open and lively. The Zero has better extension on both ends of the frequency range, while being more engaging and definitely superior with respect to technicals. So let's just get that out of the way. Tanchjim Tanya, which I don't have on me now, it shares a very similar form factor. Similar in look, but they sound completely different. The Tanya is darker sounding and tuned differently. The Tanya is more organic in presentation with comparable, if arguably better detail and technicalities. Still, the Little Q is more fun sounding. So here we have the Tanya, more technical, more organic, realistic, if you want to say that, to a point, which is taken away a little bit by the darkness of its presentation, but that's for another review, while the Little Q is more on the fun side. So let's conclude this real quickly. The Kbear Little Q is an interesting product that, given its asking price, is actually pretty impressive. Bravo Kbear on that. That being said, for less than $5 more USD, you can have significantly better sound. The Sound Note Zero walks all over the Little Q, and the Chew taking a huge bite as well. the Moondrop Chew. If the form factor is the main deciding point, then the Little Q should be on your shortlist. It's a good and fun sounding earphone. Still, more accomplished competitors are just a stone's throw away in terms of funds. If I had the option to get the Little Q or wait another week or 2 or 3 to gain a little bit more money to buy the Sound Notes, I would definitely go for the Sound Notes. That's being said, again, if the form factor is something, some people like these bullet form factors for sleeping and whatnot. I don't sleep with my earphones. I've never understood people to do that. But then again, to each their own. I don't sleep with music on. Some people do, and I appreciate that completely. Then this should be definitely considered. It's a good earphone. We have, of course, the Dumpling and a few other earphones that have come out in the same form factor. It seems that all the manufacturers are trying to one-up each other, which is great for us, the consumer. That's my review of the Kbear Little Q. Please subscribe, like and subscribe to the channel, support us. Check down below again for the blog. There is a blog entry for the Little Q, which has more pictures, more descriptive of the items that it came with, the accessories and whatnot. Take care and have a great day.